A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase.
Morning everybody, and welcome to Scotland. More on that in a minute, but the other day I was speaking to a friend of mine, a photographer friend of mine, and we were talking about our favourite images of the year so far. And I showed him mine, which is this. I took it in Antarctica in February. I've probably shown it to you hundreds of times already because I really like it. But his face let me know that he didn't really. And he didn't say that, but I sort of quizzed him on it, and he said, well, it's kind of quite obvious. And I suppose I get what he means. Basically, I saw a hut, I walked up to it, I snapped a profile of that hut. Not the most complex shot in the world, so I do get it. Anyway, the reason I bring it up is it served as quite a good reminder that there's no such thing as a good photo. Because you could take a photo that you absolutely love, you think is amazing, and other people will not like it. Regardless of what you say, what you do, it won't be to their taste. So the important lesson there, I think, which I took from it, was that there is absolutely no point trying to take photos to please other people, because you don't know what can please other people. And so it's best to take photos that please you, the photographer, and well, if you do that, you can't go too far wrong, I don't think. Anyway, similar to that Antarctica photo, I think this may be also one of the best photos I take this year. I don't know that I've nailed it yet, but it has all the ingredients that I like in a photo. Coast, a man-made object, which is that hut in the background, another man-made object, this path just here. I say man-made, it might have been carved by sheep. We've got some lovely wildflowers. It's just wonderful. And I know the man-made thing is probably a bit weird to some of you. I think most landscape photographers try and actively avoid man-made things in their images. And I've not really delved into why it is that I like to include man-made things in my images, but I just think it helps so much with story. That's probably it. And yeah, that hut does a great job of telling a story. Because other than that, it's a completely desolate place, this. Achmelvik is this beach. As with everywhere in the world, please ignore my pronunciations, including in Wales, where I live. Right, well, I think from somewhere like this is probably a decent place for my first shot. Basically, we've got the wildflowers here, and by getting low, we exaggerate those and get rid of, well, I'm not going to say a boring ocean because it's lovely and turquoise, but there's nothing really happening on the bottom left half of the image. So I want to minimise that, maximise the flowers, but keep enough ocean so that we can see the crashing waves against the rocks. Then we've also got the kind of leading line of this path, which kind of leads its way towards the hut if I position myself in roughly the right place. I'll get a shot and show you what I mean. Now the key here, I think, as I might have mentioned, is that I need to wait for the right wave. I'm at f5.6 just to get a bit of softness in these flowers and this path here, but that should mean everything in the background is perfectly in focus. I've also got my minimum shutter speed set to 250th of a second just to make sure that the detail in the water is nice and crispy when it hits the rocks. Right, and I'm at about 40 mil as well. Something like that. I found a portrait orientation shot, which I think works quite well. I mean, it also works as a landscape shot. Let's try that. But basically, as you can probably tell, it kind of all centers around the clump of flowers in the middle of the path, which I think works quite nicely. They're not completely in focus, that's not the point of them, but from here at somewhere between 35 and 50 mil, I'm able to get just enough of the water to add a flavour of coast to the shot as well. Don't need to include the whole thing, just a little bit. Right, well, it turns out I can't help myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down to the beach and be part of the image. A bit more of a human element now that I haven't got the path leading down to the beach from this angle. So interval timer, 5 seconds apart. The shots won't start for 30 seconds, which should give me, well, nowhere near enough time actually to get down to the beach. I also don't know what the tides are doing. Probably should have looked that up before doing this too, because I think it's coming in. Right, I'll hurry up. I need to be fitter, I think. I don't know if that was worthwhile though, because it probably looked like I've got a floating body with no legs, thanks to my sand-coloured trousers. Might have to sort that in Photoshop. I've got a bit of a nagging feeling that I've not nailed this location. And I often get that feeling when I'm shooting in places that aren't just down the road from my house, because the consequences feel quite high, like I can't just nip back any other week. But it's okay, because we're camping just over this hill. I say we're, me and Tom, my brother, we're doing a bit of a road trip this week. So I'll be here tonight, which means that I can come back for another crack and see it with a fresh pair of eyes maybe. I think I'm going to be happy with the shots that I've got, and I don't mind that there's no light, because these hills kind of lend themselves quite nicely to flat light because there's so much detail in them. But might be interesting to see it in other conditions. So yes, I'll come back tonight and see if I see anything differently. But for now, Tom has promised me sausages. Good morning, everybody. I feel a bit disappointed this morning. Basically, the plan, as I think I mentioned yesterday, was to turn up last night to do some more shooting in slightly different conditions. Unfortunately, it was different conditions, but it was raining sideways and just super windy, and I gave it a hard pass, basically. But I've turned up this morning in the hope that, well, some swell was generated from that bad weather, but no, flat as a pancake, which is annoying because I spent the entire day yesterday thinking about the photos I got yesterday morning, and I just think the water was a little bit of a problem child in lots of those photos. It just wasn't interesting enough, and I thought that some white water kind of a bit further out to sea might just add to the drama. In fact, it would add to the drama, but it's non-existent. So I'm gonna have another crack at getting some photos today. I'm gonna try and work on the water though, with a few different focal lengths.
That morning didn't really work, as I suspected would be the case. As I was mentioning, the sea was a bit flat, and I think you need some swell or roughness in the sea to really emphasise the remoteness of that cottage. And ultimately it's not that remote. There is a campsite, a busy campsite, like 200 yards in the opposite direction, but you don't need to know that looking at this photo, and I think a rough sea helps kind of make it feel quite secluded, which was what I was going for and what wasn't available that morning. That said, I do have 3 or 4 photos that I think emphasise that quite well from preceding mornings, so I think overall I can leave that location happy. I mean, I have left that location, obviously I'm back at my house. Scotland trip was good though. I didn't do any vlogging apart from that, which was bliss, actually. It's been a long time since I just concentrated solely on photography. And anyone that's got a YouTube channel, a photography YouTube channel, will tell you you can't really concentrate 100% on your photography when you're also making a video because, well, you're trying to do 2 different things. So it was really nice just to work on photography, and I really leaned into the human element of photos that I was talking about before. In other words, just taking photos of cottages and boats and roads and things of that nature within a landscape. And really, if I look back at all of my favourite images that I've ever taken, the vast majority of them have some kind of human element in them, and I've still not really got to the bottom of why that is, but I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to kind of, as I say, lean into it. So lots more of that stuff in the future, I think, alongside me trying to work out why it is that I like it so much. But yeah, I'm sure I'll talk about the Scotland images that I got at some point in another video. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, and also thank you to Squarespace, the sponsor of this week's video. Now, I have a bit of an apology to make. If you have been tracking my gear page on my Squarespace website for the past few months, you might have noticed it keeps changing. For example, a few weeks ago I mentioned I was going to be selling my 35mm f1.4 GM lens, and I duly did that, bought a 50mm and a 24mm, but within a week of owning those lenses I returned them, because I realised that actually I wanted the 35mm back and I couldn't justify having all of them. So I repurchased a 35mm f1.4, which was fun. But yeah, long story short, I need to change my gear page again. Luckily on Squarespace, that's very easy to do, and I also need to add some of the Scotland images to my portfolio page, which again, super easy to do. So if you're a photographer and you're interested in having a website, then I couldn't recommend Squarespace highly enough. I've used it for years, super simple to use, and whether you want a portfolio, an online store, a blog to be able to send newsletters, or maybe a gear page that you change constantly like me, then Squarespace is just a fantastic solution. Now you can get a free trial by going to squarespace.com, and you can download a template, start adding images, text, just have a play around, see what you think. And if you like it and you want to make a purchase, and I think there's a very good chance of that, then you can go to squarespace.com/James and you'll get 10% off of that first purchase. So yeah, big thank you to Squarespace for their continued support and for making fantastic products. And a big thank you to you for watching me rambling and trying to take photos. And hopefully one day I will be able to finish a video outside at the location without having to come back and tell you why something didn't work. Feels like that's happened a lot recently, but never mind. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm going to change my gear page again. See you soon. Cheers.